Good afternoon. This is Dave Nadler with the National Weather Service in Peachtree City, Atlanta, with your weather briefing for today, primarily focusing on the threats and impacts of this next storm system that is expected to sweep across the area later on tonight into the day on Thursday. Here are the main points. Again, we are expecting a pretty intense storm system to move across the area later tonight into Thursday, bringing multiple weather hazards to the area. Starting off rest of today, basically the winds are going to kick up. We expect sustained winds 15 to 30 miles per hour with gusts 35 to 45 miles per hour at times to develop through the afternoon into the evening hours. This has resulted in a wind advisory that is in effect for a good portion of the area, with the exception of the far southeastern parts of our area, south and east of Macon, over towards Swainsboro. You're going to see some gusty winds, but not quite into the wind advisory criteria at this point. The other things we will be looking at, strong to severe thunderstorms ramping up later on tonight into Thursday, with the primary threat being damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. We are looking at the potential for a few tornadoes within the line, the best chance being closer to the Alabama-Georgia state line later on tonight into the early morning hours. And then also heavy rain in a short period of time will likely result in localized flooding of creeks and streams and or some isolated flash flooding that we'll have to be watching later tonight into the morning hours on Thursday. The good news is after this system kicks through tomorrow, we are expecting cooler and drier air for the weekend. With our next storm system expected late next Tuesday into Wednesday at this point. And for now, the severe threat with this next system is not expected to be overwhelming. We'll have to watch it over the next few days to see how things evolve. But basically, locally heavy rain is the primary concern at this time for that early to midweek system next week. So I mentioned the wind. This is what we're expecting wind gusts, like maximum wind gusts, to be basically from this afternoon through the night. It's not going to be a continuous, 30 to 40, 40 to 50 mile per hour wind gusts, but at times we could see these winds reach these levels, which has again prompted us to issue a wind advisory. In some of the higher elevations, we could see greater than 50 mile per hour winds at times. Later on this afternoon, especially this evening ahead of the storm system as it approaches from the west. So these winds alone could knock down some trees ahead of the line of storms that is expected to approach the area later tonight and into the early morning hours tomorrow. So be prepared for that through the rest of today into the evening hours ahead of the storms after midnight tonight. So let's get right into the severe potential. I've got two graphics here. Basically, damaging winds are expected to be the primary threat, but there is a low threat of some tornadoes embedded within the line, especially closer to the Alabama-Georgia state line and points west. We are expecting just the intense low-level wind shear coupling with the strength of the system to generate these threats as the line of storms move through. We do expect the storms generally to weaken as it moves east across the area very late tonight into the early morning hours. But again, that damaging wind threat and low tornado threat will exist, especially west for areas across western Georgia late tonight through the early morning hours on Thursday. So please be prepared for these threats as things kick up later tonight into the early morning hours. And if you're anywhere along the Alabama-Georgia state line, try not to get caught up into well, I'm just outside of the red area or just outside of the enhanced risk for severe weather. If you're within 50 to 75 miles of that cutoff from red to yellow or enhanced to slight risk from the Storm Prediction Center, you need to be prepared and err on the side of caution that some of these storms along the state line as they move in from the west could be pretty severe very late tonight into the early morning hours. So don't get caught up into exactly where these lines are drawn. And just be prepared that, there are some things coming together not far off to our west in parts of Alabama that could support a significant severe weather outbreak with extreme damaging winds and strong tornadoes, especially areas west of I-65 and south of I-20 later on this afternoon into the evening hours. So we'll be watching that as things approach the area later on this evening and into the overnight hours. Now heading into Thursday, as the line continues to propagate across the rest of the state, there will remain a damaging wind threat, especially south and east of a Macon to Americus line and then on up into Augusta, and there's a very low end tornado threat. But I think at this point, through the morning hours with everything sort of kicking out by early afternoon, the primary threat outside of the locally heavy rain is going to be damaging winds. Okay, here's the timing. We put this together earlier this morning. Basically for severe weather, if you're up across parts of northwest, north central Georgia, from midnight to 3 a.m., give or take an hour or two, is when we expect the primary concerns for damaging winds and maybe a tornado threat, along with the heavy rain later tonight. And then across the I-85 corridor, including Atlanta Metro, from between 2 a.m. and 6 a.m. Tonight into the early morning hours, and then toward daybreak and through the morning hours on Thursday for points basically from Columbus, east side of Atlanta, Covington up to Athens, and then points south and east through the remainder of our areas when we expect the primary threats of any stronger storms with damaging winds, heavy rain, and a very low tornado threat to exist as we head through the morning hours. By early afternoon hours, after about 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow, the heavier line of storms should be exiting our forecast area. So we do expect conditions to improve from west to east through the morning hours tomorrow and into the early afternoon across our far southeast counties. So here's a simulated model look at reflectivity from radar. Basically from about midnight tonight across, stuff moving in across far north and west Georgia, and then continuing to move south and east across the forecast area and across the state through the morning hours and into the early afternoon. This cuts off at about noon tomorrow. So for areas across east central and southeast Georgia, the threat for severe weather will exist, especially as we head into the afternoon hours tomorrow. But basically from about midnight tonight through mid to late morning hours for north and central Georgia, this is where we expect the main threat for strong damaging winds, a low tornado threat, and the heavier rainfall with lightning to occur for parts of north and central Georgia. Speaking of that heavy rain, this is what we're expecting with rainfall, generally in a ½ inch to 1.5 inches across just about the entire area between midnight tonight and midday tomorrow on Thursday. But a lot of this rain is going to fall within about a 2 to 4 hour window, 2 to 5 hour window. So when you get 1 to 2 inches of rain in that short period of time, that's where the flood potential could come up just a little bit. We're not expecting any widespread, flooding or flash flooding with this event because it is fairly quick moving. But then some localized areas could definitely see some, higher rainfall, maybe approaching 2 inches of rain in that 2 to 4 hour window, where we could see some nuisance flooding of creeks and streams, and maybe some localized flash flooding develop in some of the more flood-prone areas, urban areas, and even areas like low-lying and more flood-prone areas. We'll have to watch that through the night tonight into the early morning hours, but this is what we're expecting for rainfall basically later on tonight through the morning hours on Thursday. And after that, after tomorrow, we do expect the cooler and drier air to move back into the area for tomorrow night into Friday. So what you're seeing is low temperatures for Thursday night into Friday, and then high temperatures on Friday after starting off into the 40s and low to mid 50s. We do expect temperatures to rebound into the 60s and low to mid 70s on Friday. Looking ahead Friday night into Saturday, a cool start to the day on Saturday, kicking off the weekend, but it will be dry. Looking at temperatures in the mid to upper 30s for a good portion of North Georgia, 40s across parts of the rest of North and parts of Central Georgia on Friday night, Saturday morning. Temperatures rebounding nicely into the 60s and 70s on Saturday, about where we should be for this time of year. So hopefully if we can get through later tonight into tomorrow, for the most part, without most areas being hit very hard, we can enjoy the rest of the week and into the weekend. And then, as I mentioned earlier, our next storm system is expected to affect the area by late next Tuesday into Wednesday, and we'll keep an eye on that. At this time, we're not expecting any major impacts out of that system other than some additional rainfall, but we'll certainly be keeping an eye on that. So again, in summary, basically winds kicking up today through the evening ahead of this pretty strong storm system that will move across the area later tonight into Thursday, bringing a round of heavy rain and thunderstorms across the area late tonight through the day on Thursday. We do have a risk for strong to severe storms, especially later on tonight across the western portion of the state. Damaging winds in excess of 60 miles per hour are going to be the primary threat. So we'll definitely be looking at the potential to see some downed trees and power lines with sporadic power outages expected certainly as we head through the night tonight and into the morning hours tomorrow. We could see a few tornadoes embedded within the line, especially west of I-75 late tonight into the early morning hours. So we'll be watching for that, along with the heavy rain potential within a short period of time that could lead to localized flooding or flash flooding heading into the morning hours tomorrow. So we hope everybody stays safe through the day today into tonight and tomorrow. And if you need to reach out to us, here are the different ways that you can connect with us or stay up to date, with the latest forecast and information with this next system coming in. Thank you again for joining us today, and hope you have a good rest of the day. Thank you.